Are you a franchisor, whether early or established, looking for tips and tricks and fresh new ideas on taking your franchise company to the next level? I'm Angela Cote, and I call myself a franchise growth catalyst. I use my experience having grown up in the world of franchising, spending many years on the franchisor side of the franchise relationship, lots of time out in the field supporting franchisees, and then 18 years myself as a multi-unit franchisee. I'm super passionate about creating transformational impact to help franchise companies grow. If you are looking for ideas, we talk about anything from franchisee recruitment, how to find the best franchisees that are going to be the top performers in your brand, to how to support them to really optimize their output. We are more than open to hearing ideas and questions and suggestions. So reach out to me at angela@angelacote.com. Alrighty, let's get started with the Franchise Growth Catalyst podcast. Hello, Angela Cote here, and here we go with another episode of the Franchise Growth Catalyst podcast, the podcast where franchisors can find unconventional yet practical advice on how to improve franchisee profitability, create exponential growth, and of course, make franchising fun. Now, speaking of fun, I've got a fun guest with me today. I've got Ricky Hall from NutritionHQ. How are you today, Ricky?
I'm awesome, Angela. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to do this.
Awesome. Well, the first time we chatted, we just had so much energy together, and I thought it'd be fun to share that with everybody. And so for today, as you know, Ricky, but just so our audience knows, what I wanted to do is help people understand whether or not for them it might make sense to hire a business coach or a business advisor. We call ourselves at AC Inc. Franchise Growth Advisors. And I'll tell you, when I'm going to say probably 7 years ago now, I was trying to figure out what to do with my life. I had my franchises. I was still a franchisee. My husband was running those. My kids were getting a bit older. I felt kind of lost. And somehow through my network, a career coach came across my radar. And I'd seen her, e-newsletter come, and I was like, what is that really? I got on a call with her, and I was like, spending money on coaching, like, ooh, that's weird. Like, I don't know if it's going to be, valuable to me. Is there going to be ROI? And I remember it was $1,700, and it was the best $1,700 I've ever spent. But at the time, I remember feeling like, ooh, this feels like a lot of money for something. And it was like 12 sessions or something. It felt like a lot of money for, I'm not going to get something. Like, I'm not going to get an operations manual handed to me or something tangible. So, I have now gotten really sold on the value of having somebody on the outside, with a set of eyes on our business that helps us see our blind spots and that sort of thing. And so, Ricky, you and I have had a couple conversations about this and the value. So that's why I wanted to bring you on here today to help people understand kind of the value you can get out of using an outside franchise growth advisor or business coach. So we'll get into that in a minute, but just wanted to, put the topic out there. But before we get into that, I love your story because you really know what it's like to be on the franchisee side because you were a franchisee. So let's just do like a kind of high level summary of, the backstory that led you to become a franchisor and kind of where you're at right now.
Absolutely. So I did 6 years in the Air Force, then got out, and I was obsessed with health, wellness, and nutrition. I played sports in high school. So when I got out, I moved to New Jersey and got a job at a gym. And long story short, just GNC started going to expansion mode, and they had lots of deals to get young people into their business model. I had a friend out there doing it at GNC, and he was doing extremely well. So I was like, you know what? I had saved up quite a bit of money doing a construction job. And I was like, I'm going to do this. So I just filled out the paperwork, and I got approved to be a franchisee. Now I had to do some other things because my net worth wasn't much, but we got it figured out. And I opened my first store in February of 2000. And at the end of it in 2010, when I sold my GNCs, I had 5 locations. I just didn't see myself. I had hit 10 years. I'm like, do you see yourself with GNC in another 10 years? And I didn't. So I needed to act then. My stores were doing extremely well, so I sold. And I exited that system and went into another franchise system, helped my sister open some stores. And then after a year, I acquired her stores. And that was another franchise system called Complete Nutrition. And I did that for a little over 3 years and just did not like where it was going. So we basically did a mutual release and I left that system.
So just on that, it wasn't a fit for you, and that happens in franchising. That's fine. But then you still felt, and I'll let you continue there.
No, and that's it. I knew it wasn't a fit, and I didn't like that I couldn't take care of my customers. And I didn't like that it was like franchisor against franchisee. And I'm like, man, we should all be on this same boat together, you know? And I just couldn't wrap my head around it. I was like, this is what GNC did to us. So I left that system in 14, and then 15, I rebranded as NutritionHQ. Now, during this whole time, I have a really good franchise attorney that now I've become really good friends with. And
that's helpful.
It is, yes. And we were going to lunch, and we were walking down the street in Clayton. I live in St. Louis. And it was me and two of his basically right-hand franchise people. And he goes, Ricky's wanting a franchise. He left GNC because of greed, left Complete because of greed. And now he wants to become a franchisor. And I just wanted to be a franchisor because I'm like, I can do this better. And Eric flat out said right there, he goes, if you get greedy, I will not represent you, because that's what happens, And so long story short, we're started franchising a year ago, and it has been great. And I'm excited about what the future looks like. Our goal is to have 100 stores by 2030. Our Gladiator goal is 500 stores one day across the U.S.
That's cool. Yeah, I was going to ask you what your growth goals were, and what is your favorite part? What gets you most excited about your growth goals, or what you do kind of every day?
The vision of seeing it coming together. I love that. I'm a dreamer, and I visualize stuff big time. I actually carry a card around with me with something. I always write down different things I want or I'm working on, and I carry that with me every day.
I love that. I've only really tuned into visualizing things in the last few years, which is kind of funny, but I really do believe that when we have that clear picture of where we're trying to go, and then we, take the action steps to get there, it helps a lot. Like for me, one of my daily rituals in the morning when I do, a gratitude journal where I'm like, what am I thankful for? And usually I'm reflecting on the day before, and it usually something will pop into my mind, a win that I had. Sometimes it's like my family, the ocean or whatever, but
absolutely.
It's that too. But I think about the wins, and then I go, oh yeah. And where am I trying to go? And I sit there and I visualize the longer term, and I go, okay, so that's where I'm trying to go. Oh, and good. I had that win yesterday. That's getting me on that track. So I think it's really cool that you've got that. And
it's funny you say that, because I actually yesterday morning got up and shot a YouTube video about setting the temperature of your day, and be a thermostat and not a thermometer. And I journal and I write down 3 things I've done well in the last 24 hours. And something I want to accomplish in the next 24. It may be do the freaking laundry, but hey, that's what I want to get done in the next 24 hours.
Yeah. Hey, if that works, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, we have a core value at AC Inc. Action equals growth. And if anything can trigger that action, that's awesome. And so I'll just kind of go back to why we're doing this podcast. Is we were having a conversation the other day, and I was asking you what value did you receive from working with us? And we're always obviously concerned with making sure that we're doing our best. So I always like to talk to clients and people who have maybe moved on to do different goals or things like that. And in doing that, you said, oh man, Ange, like I moved about a year faster or something like that as a result of working with you. So I thought I'd just start with that. And I I'm always like really authentic about how I do things. I'm not here to promote us. Of course, I'd love for people to listen and go, well, we want to go work with AC Inc. I mean, I'm not going to deny that, but I think really to educate people on why it's important to get like that, get help from an expert on the outside, seeing your blind spots, being able to give you just direct answers on things that you didn't know. So that's kind of the goal here. So is there anything you want to say about that conversation, just starting off? Like, the
Yeah,
year.
because I'm the last person that wants to hire a coach, you know. And so when you and I talked, like there was something there. I'm like, this is a different feeling, you know. And I agree with that. Not trying to sell yourself, but just educate. You know, let people do their homework and decide where they want to spend their money.
Yeah. And I guess, so yeah, when we connected and you said it was a different feel, maybe because I think we're really aligned on our vision in franchising, that about like making it better. Could you just speak to what it was or why you feel aligned with us? Maybe to do with taking care of franchisees, I've heard you talk about, or something like that.
Yeah. One of the things that really resonated with me was like, when you talk to somebody about franchising, you kind of want to find out where their head is, because maybe they shouldn't be franchising. So you might, you know what, let me talk you out of this, or let's discuss this. I like that, but I like the mentality because, like I said, when I left, I was like, why aren't these franchisees making, oh, here, I'll give you an example. After Eric and I split away from Complete, I'm walking down the streets in Clayton again. I walk up to one of the group of guys, we're going out for a drink. And the guy goes, oh, I can't believe you and Eric did that deal. Now you become the franchisor, take all your franchisees' money and party on the yacht. And I'm like, no. Now I become the franchisor, make my franchisees filthy rich, and we party on the yacht together. And I think that's your mindset. And that day we talked, I knew right then it was.
Awesome. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. And yeah, you know, we see a lot of people in franchising that it's like money first, like you're saying. Yes. And sad, that's just sad. And unfortunately, it's given franchising a bad reputation. And so we're really on a mission to change that. So it's really awesome to have people like you in our network, you know, with us on that mission, in the way that you're doing things. You know, you're definitely in our community, and we think that's really cool. So that's awesome. And I think that's a nugget right there for people that, you know, if you're going to hire somebody to help you, you really need to feel aligned. It's not just what expertise do they have, but do I feel aligned? Do we share core values? Do we share our vision for what we're trying to do?
Right. Are they pulling you to the right? Are they pulling you the right way, or pushing you to somewhere where you're not happy? And that's what you got to be careful with. And I never felt like that when I talked. Anytime I talked to you or Keith, or I was sitting in on those roundtables, like, man, we're all pulling this rope from the same end.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. I, you know, one of the things I'm getting more and more vocal about is when I hear people talk about, oh, we're doing 20 deals this quarter. You know, and then we've got 100 more in the pipeline. And I'm like, I don't know if that's responsible. Like, you're going to end up with a lot of casualties, you know, yes. Franchisees that shouldn't have been there, that invested their life savings. And I know from our conversations, Ricky, that you are super concerned with, like, you wouldn't be able to sleep at night, you know, doing it irresponsibly like that. That's a big part of your mission. So,
no, and even when Keith and I talked, I said, preserve the culture, because I've had bad culture, and we will not chase a check.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have any interest in it. Money, you can make money doing anything, but doing it the right way and helping people make money. I mean, man, be in the same trench trying to get to the next trench with your franchisees.
Totally. And that'll be exponential financial wealth for everybody if you go in with that approach, I believe. So
why would you ever want to be at your franchise convention and basically speak and then have to exit right and then go back up into your room because you can't even mingle with your franchisee? Yeah. Who wants that?
Yeah.
And I want to jump off the stage and land in the crowd with them.
Yeah, I could see that, like doing this, like the surf, the crowd surf, or whatever. Yeah, I could see that. That'd be fun. When you do that, make sure you invite us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just for anybody that's listening, if they're hearing us reference Keith, Keith is the franchise growth advisor on our team that you have worked with. So let's talk about some of the things that the actual things that you. Maybe almost the mindset, you know, or learning experiences, I guess. Can you share one or two of what you felt was the most valuable mindset or learning experiences, considering you were coming in, you had a lot of background as a franchisee, so you knew franchising, but then now you're a franchisor and, you know, you need to sort of fill a different set of shoes. Like, what are some things that really helped you?
Yeah. And that was it too. Like, I fast track my vocabulary from franchisee to franchisor. And one of my favorite books is Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad, which you got to understand the vocabulary of, wherever you're trying to be. So if you're trying to be in stocks and bonds, you got to understand the vocabulary. And I needed to now change my vocabulary to more of a franchisor, because I've been for 15 years, well, more than that, going into my stores, coaching as the owner of the whole thing. So I really didn't have many boundaries because I owned everything, and so one thing that Keith helped me do a lot was, I'll give you an example, joint employment. Me going into a store and telling somebody how to handle an employee could set you up for a lawsuit for joint employment.
Mm-hmm.
And that really resonated. I'm like, wow, I got to take a step back and really learn my boundary as franchisor versus store owner. And that was huge. That may seem so little until you have that lawsuit.
Yeah. And I think that kind of thing probably gives you confidence as a franchisor and as a leader, knowing those things.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then you start to dive into it a little bit more and just kind of understanding more of the language. And that was the thing that really flipped the switch on me. Like, whoa, I got to learn my boundary.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. One thing we see a lot is, we, as you know, because you come to our emerging franchisor roundtables and the clients that we work with, especially with emerging franchisors, there's this sort of almost. I don't think you have self-doubt. I think you're a pretty confident person. I mean, we all maybe do at some point, but I don't know if that's quite the right word of self-doubt. But this feeling of like, am I doing it right? Like, am I doing this right? Am I being a franchisor right? Even in our established franchisor client base and just community in general, we see them go like, am I being a good CEO? Or and it's like, we all kind of want to know that. And I think that I'm kind of hearing that with, learning that the boundaries in that I'm sort of feeling like that's tied together, that it would give you that confidence. Okay, like I know what I can say and I know what I can't say and do. And I'm doing, now I'm more confident that I'm doing this right.
Yeah. And another thing I want to back up on, we worked together for 4 months, and like you were saying, an operation manual or something tangible. I have amazing notes that Keith kept during our meetings, and I was going through them yesterday. So like, that's value right there, because you get to doing so many things, and you move on. But that's one thing that I like is I have a binder, has everything in it. I have notes from all of our roundtables. I have a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
And it makes a big difference. But sitting in on those roundtables, and like you said, hearing other people talk about some of the stuff, and like, oh yeah, I've been doing that. I need to switch. I need to change my mindset there.
Yeah. 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 So let's talk. We'll come back to other wins for you, but for a quick sec on the roundtables, just again, anybody that's listening. So we run free roundtables for emerging franchisors, established franchisors. If people are listening and they're curious about it, they can reach out to me, direct message, or find it on our website. It's actually even better. One of the things, just like what you just said, we see a lot, especially. Actually, not even. I was going to say, especially on the emerging, but really on both. We ask, as you know, we make it a rule. Give us your key takeaway in the chat before you hop off, so we know what you got out of this, and we just can learn more about what people know and think. And we often get comments like, "It's reassuring to know I'm on the right track, or I'm doing things right," or like you said, "Oh, I hadn't seen it that way, and I saw things differently." Like, it's that different perspective, right? Like, is that something that you felt on the roundtables?
Yeah. And another thing too is like listening to franchisors that are further down the road going, oh man, this is what I have in place now. And if I could have put that in place at stores 3, 4, and 5, I'll give you an example, like the same bookkeeping company for all franchisees.
Yeah.
I mean, right there, set the groundwork from day one as soon as you can. That's where I've been lucky enough is to connect with you guys so soon. When I'm at 2 stores, I can already start implementing this instead of trying to get 20 guys that have been out the wild, wild west, guys or girls, and now you got to get them all back in and crowd. And then they feel like you're closing in on them. You're taking away their freedom.
Oh, totally. Yeah. You're so right. It's so much easier to systemize and standardize anything earlier on. And you're right. That's a huge one that people miss. And standardized chart of accounts, that's along the lines of that as well. Like, get everybody on the same page at the beginning, because you do get a lot of like, well, my brother-in-law is a book, or my sister-in-law is a bookkeeper, and they shoebox accounting, and they don't get profit and loss statements on time, and now you're fighting tooth and nail to get their information, and we need that information so we can help the franchisees, right?
And they haven't paid payroll taxes in 3 months. I mean, those are signs that your franchisee is starting to fail. And when you're setting up the franchise, you got your FDD, you got your operations man. You think about all that stuff, but you don't think about the bookkeeping and all this other little stuff that if you get it all lined up soon at the very beginning, your structure for growth is in a much better position.
Yeah.
Again, I got a ton of value out of with you guys.
That sounds like I paid you to say that, but I appreciate it. That's exactly what, and this is what the guy actually asked you in our phone call. I said, how can we communicate this to people that they will understand? Because franchisors early on, they know they need an FDD. They know they need an operations manual. They usually know they need, some software, some marketing, like those are easier kind of sells. And we're like, we're going in there going, we can help you figure out which of those things are most important right now and kind of guide you on where to spend your hard-earned money that you don't even have usually because it's so early. And so we're really trying to guide that, but how do you put a dollar? This is what I asked you. I'm like, how do we help people understand that? And then that's actually when you said, well, we could talk about this on a podcast, which is what we're doing right now.
And it's hard to put a return on investment, like, okay, yeah, you buy a store for, we'll just use simple numbers, $100,000. And the next year it kicks off X amount, and in 7 years, it's paid itself off, if not sooner. Yeah, that's an easy one to understand, but it's really hard to put an ROI on hiring a coach. But, one thing that I know, and I had this conversation with Tyler, my son, yesterday, and I said, I'm so far ahead by working with Angela because we were able to clean the website up, the franchising tab, we put on a YouTube channel. I made my LinkedIn explode, by Keith going, man, get on your LinkedIn. Like Keith was coaching me through LinkedIn, do this, do that, give me the best practices to do that kind of stuff. So that, can you put an ROI on it? I don't know, but I know I'm in a hell of a lot better position working with you guys than I would have been if I would have been trying to navigate the waters by myself.
Yeah, it's a time thing. Like, how do you we got to figure out how to, maybe we can come up with, our team will come up with like a formula for like, how much is your time worth? And then we fast track you a year and that's the dollar amount.
So when I was in EO, one of the things we went through was like, figure out what your hourly rate would be.
Yeah.
And now I consider my hourly rate $400.
Yeah.
If you're going to waste an hour of my time, it's $400.
Yeah. So will I be getting a bill after for this?
Nah, we'll get it.
I'll buy you a drink at the next franchise conference that we're at.
Deal.
Yeah. Which as of right now this will get out of date, but right now the next one is Springboard. So I'll buy you a drink there. But yeah, that's so smart. And as a leader, entrepreneur, business owner, it's really important to understand how much your time is worth. So that's you got my wheels turning on that. I might do something with that, but let's keep going on things. So your franchise website, like you improved it. What does that mean? Like, why is that a good thing for you?
It just was, Keith was able to turn me on to other sites that had more hits and flowed better. And then we put in an investment calculator so that way people could plug their money in, and just another way to generate leads. Now, the next step from there is to completely take that site, that tab, and set up its own complete site. Mm-hmm. But this was just a little win we needed right now to make it. So if we're sending people to the website and they're not filling anything out, there's something wrong with the website.
Yes. Okay. This is a huge point right here that people, need to understand. Like, your website is really critical. I mean, your social media, all that stuff drives people to your website. So your website, if your website sucks, then all that effort, all that effort, and then you're going to lose them. So, the simple form, making it look more legit by having that investment calculator on it. That's cool. And I love what you said. This is actually something we're really big on at AC Inc. is that what are some small things we can do organically right now? And like you said, just do, at least for now, do a page, do a good microsite on your website. And then the next step will be a full website, but you'll start to kind of learn what should be on that by doing this step. Action equals growth, right? Like take that action, getting there.
And nothing's wrong with KISS. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
Especially when you're at the very beginning stages. And I'm at the very beginning stages, but still, we've done such little stuff because we kept it simple.
Yeah.
When I rebranded and I was getting all these branding ideas and they were like screaming at me and everybody's coming, I was like, no, keep it simple. We don't have any money. Keep it simple. Let's get the name changed. Let's get the sign up. Let's keep it simple.
Yeah, because when you keep it simple, it's so much more actionable. And this is a huge roadblock I see in people that are, like leaders, franchisors, just trying to grow, is that they overcomplicate. And, I always say perfection is the enemy of done. Just doing the little steps forward is going to give you huge momentum.
It is. And don't be afraid to block and tackle for a couple of years. You don't have to be fancy.
Yeah. Yeah. And what we see a lot is franchisors early stage, especially like before the first franchisee or when they've just got the one. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. We see people feeling like they feel kind of inferior because they see the more established franchisors, or they see people that are a little further along and they compare and they think they need everything to be perfect and polished with a bow. And I'm like wrapped up with a bow on it, tied up. And I'm like, you know what? You're going to attract people. Like your first franchisees are typically not going to be people walking around a show comparing you to the A&Ws and the McDonald's and the Subways. They're going to be people that want to be aligned with you, Ricky, and love your passion, love your energy, love your vision, and are okay. Like people say, oh, we've got to make ourselves look. Yeah, that's funny because right now I have a goldfish on my canvas behind me with the shark. So it's going to look opposite to what I'm saying. Like, we look bigger than we are. Sometimes we do that, but we also with a franchise candidate want to be transparent about the stage we're at so that they don't get let down and think that, oh, you had all this stuff organized. I'd rather say, hey, we're early on. It's going to be more entrepreneurial and a little bit more crazy, but fun. And you're going to have more opportunity to actually get in there and help us shape the brand because it's early on, rather than, oh, we have to have a perfect website and a perfect operations manual and make it look like we know everything when really it's just stuff making you look that way. And that's actually risky. What are your thoughts on that?
You're dead on. And that goes back to setting up your initial franchise fee and the value of it, because mine was extremely low.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about this. Yeah.
I didn't realize that I needed that initial franchise fee is not your moneymaker. That initial franchise fee gets your franchisee open. Yeah. And that is huge. And going back to feeling inferior. Is that what it is? Yeah. That I can't set my fee at that. I've only got 2 stores.
Right.
But we were on a round table and you're like, yeah, but you need to set it here. And one of your value propositions is you're going to see more of the founder now than a lot of these franchisees 15, 20, 25 down the road.
Correct.
That is so dead on. And that's who I am anyway, because I love being out in my stores. And that was like, wow, we updated our FDD this year and we're going to update it again next year because I'm already seeing how expensive it is to attract a new franchisee.
Yeah. And it's a value perception thing, right? So you were feeling like, oh, we only have 2 stores. I got to keep it lower. Yeah. And so I guess that's an example of a tangible financial value, being able to increase your fee because we helped you, a coach or someone on the outside can see that and help you realize that. And
what's nice too is your coaches have seen hundreds and hundreds of FDDs and be like, hey, Ricky, go to the state of Indiana, pull up their website and look at the FDDs and look at all the initial franchise fees. And there's multiple websites out there you can do it too. And I'm like, holy smokes, what am I doing? I'm underselling we have a great brand. Sell the damn thing.
Exactly. I think that is, it's so common that, it's sad because we see this a lot where really micro emerging and emerging franchisors, they feel like they don't have something to offer. And I'm like, you have something really exciting. You have all the territories to offer. Like there's no, it's not like you're down to B territories. You've got territories. You've got the excitement of, and it's going to be a different franchisee than you're going to attract when you do have 100 units. It's going to be somebody that's more of a risk taker. And one thing I often say, I'm dropping a little nugget here, bonus nugget, is those first few franchisees, often they get bored when things start to get really structured. So what I recommend people do is plant a seed when you start, even tell them that, hey, you're probably going to get bored in a few years, and we'll talk about an exit or a strategy. Like maybe you bring on a manager. Maybe you come work with me on the corporate team because you were so bought in, and maybe you come and, help me grow the company, the franchise company. So like there's answers to it, but it's an interesting thing to be aware of. I've seen it where people didn't know that, and the franchisees start to get uncomfortable because you start to get more structured.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get to be around you, call you as easily as they could before, And
Angela, don't you think your first few franchisees are more entrepreneurial wired than your later franchisees down the road? So that's why they get bored?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why, okay, let's bring you, or either we'll make you become a test center, or we'll bring you on to you might still own your store, but then you can still come on to the corporate team and we'll call you the chair of an innovation committee of franchisees that, comes up with ideas, or like there's ways to feed that. But I think just accepting it for what it is, as opposed to trying to pretend we're something or we're not at the beginning, it'll just be less risky down the road.
I agree. And I think like somebody like me that went into complete, that loved the pioneer aspect of it, probably should have been in some sort of a phase where like, hey, Ricky, why don't you go to this Charleston market? We got a guy out there who wants a store, and take a look, because you have a really good gut feeling for location. Something like that. Bring your franchisee in a role like that. Yeah,
exactly. To keep them stimulated and make them feel valued. Like their opinion, they understand it because they're in it. So yeah, I love that. Okay, I'm keeping an eye on the time here, and I'm like, we got to go through a couple more things before we wrap up. Yep. Also, I guess just one more thing on the kind of valuable learning experiences is how has the vetting of prospects changed from when you started? When we started working together, what were you doing, and what are you doing now differently?
Yep. So my mindset originally was the vetting process will be no more different than a job interview. Ooh, which is way off.
And for anybody that's listening on audio, Ricky's smiling right now because he knows.
Yeah, so it's a completely different mindset. There's hundreds of thousands of dollars on the line now, and not trying to answer every question, go through the FDD, go through all this on your very first connection or call. Set up little steps, just like we were going back a little bit ago, keeping it simple. Yeah. Maybe a little 30-minute introduction call. Then the second call is this. And then, so putting in those 5, 7, 10 steps, whatever there is. Now, they're not written in stone. So if you got a sophisticated person he knows what he's doing. He owns a couple other franchises. He or she owns a couple other franchises. You can basically get to the meat of the bone, which is,
you're going to bring the FDD up sooner. Yeah, they're going to want that early.
That was really good. And then I brought a guy on to help me put a system in place, a CRM system in place, so that we can automate different things, because especially somebody like me that loves to fly high and fast. We did the first phone call. Let's do the second phone call. Let's do the third. And you got to be careful of that, because they may not be ready. Yeah. And they're scared.
Totally.
Because it's still hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And so having an email system that sends a touch point out, and just having different touch points as it goes on, and things like that. And we had this conversation yesterday because I went to my store yesterday, Quincy. And I said, Tyler, when they come in we're going to call it confirmation day instead of discovery day, because they've already been through this process. We're going to come here and confirm that they're going to be a franchisee.
Yeah.
And I said, let's get them a really kick-ass backpack with our logo and full of gear and stuff like that. I said, so maybe five prospects come in town, but only 3 join us. The other 2 are going to be there, and they're going to have that backpack at their house. They're getting ready to go on vacation, and they're pissed off at their boss, and now they're on vacation. They got this NutritionHQ backpack. You know what? When I get back, I'm calling those guys.
Yeah.
So it's always having all those different touch points that I didn't understand that needed to be there. Maybe understood it, but just didn't know the process of putting them in place.
And maybe you didn't see enough value, like you didn't know the why, right? Like just like we talk about this a lot in franchising, like creating buy-in, knowing the why we do this. And it sounds like you now understand that it's a relationship building process. And you said it, it's so true that like they might not be ready and you can scare people off, which sounds funny to us, but like showing them the FDD too early, next thing you know, they show it to their corporate lawyer as opposed to somebody that understands franchising, and they're like, whoa, this is really not in favor of you. And, you can lose them if you don't know all these things. So I'm glad that you've got that. It's good.
You can. And the other thing is the why question. I would have never asked that before, and you asked me on our very first call, why do you want to do this? And now that's one of our first questions we ask, kind of do your introduction and like, why do you want to do this? And one of our core values is to genuinely care for someone and teamwork. And my very first really good prospect call was like, why do you want to do this? And she goes, I love helping people. And I'm like, boom.
Yeah.
Let's figure it out.
I've been looking for an investment. I don't want to work very hard. I want something.
I want a turnkey.
Yeah. Like, no, that's a red flag. Even if you had 300 units, I wouldn't want that answer. Or 5. I've been there. I've worked with franchisees when I was, female boss's daughter in the field dealing with them. It was not fun. Like these franchisees who had invested their life savings and they thought it was going to be easier. They weren't sometimes weren't always, didn't get the right expectations and alignment. It's just a disaster. So
yeah. And then I'll give you another thing. Like when I was in one of your Play Bigger groups,
yeah.
I was going to do a prospect call and I sent out to our groups and what is your favorite question to ask a prospect?
Yeah.
And everybody replied back with what they like to ask. And it's just, that's value, because we get so tunnel vision,
Yeah. I think everybody should always have some kind of a coach or advisor or mentor, or somebody that's keeping their eye out for them. Thanks for bringing up the Play Bigger groups. That for anybody that's listening, those are smaller cohorts of, regular people meeting to mastermind and work through challenges. And I think some of the things on your list that you achieved maybe were a result of that, because I remember talking about things in there. So you just to kind of run through them quickly, you've started a weekly blog, you've launched a YouTube channel, you've grown your LinkedIn from, in a short period of time, 150 connections to over 700, started a podcast, you got some PR with Starter Story. You've had 3 guest appearances on other podcasts. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And how's that been for you?
It's been great. And I would have never accomplished that without working with you guys at the very beginning, and I look, like I said, when we had our call last week and I look back, it's like, because you sit there and kick yourself in the ass all the time. You're like, man, I should be doing more. But sometimes you got to reflect back to gratitude and celebrate. Just take a little time and reflect on what you've done. And then, I don't want to go too long, but that's what's great about the book Traction is getting your ideas and everything laid out on paper so that you can stay on course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm glad you brought up Traction. That's an awesome tool. We actually did and I think you were there, maybe an emerging franchisor roundtable where we all talked about Traction, and we'll probably bring that topic back up because the sooner you understand using a system like it, and it's called Traction Entrepreneurial Operating System by Gino Wickman. For anybody that's listening, but the sooner you get that structure in place, it makes everything so much easier, right? So getting that set up early is good.
2 books I'm going to give my franchisees when they come to training is Traction. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to tell them they need to put it in place, but I'm going to tell them the story why it saved my company. Yeah. And there's a book, and anybody go to my YouTube channel. I've got some cool videos of these books. There's a book called Amaze Every Customer Every Time by Shep Hyken, who is a St. Louis author. And it's unbelievable. And those are 2 books because I want structure to them at their store level. So because we just get so busy and we forget our end goal.
Totally.
Customer service, customer service isn't a department. It's our job.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what we should do here. So we'll start to wrap up. Those are amazing accomplishments and wins. In a second, we'll get you to just share how people can see your YouTube channel or where they can find you. And maybe if they want to reach out to you just for more information on this. But I'm really excited to hear this. You know, as you know, we've got the team of advisors. I don't know if you know this, but we've really implemented a lot of ways for us all to stay connected so that everybody always said to me, like, how are you going to scale your business? You're the one with the expertise and all that. I'm like, well, I'm going to find awesome people who also are smart and probably smarter than me in a lot of different ways. And I'm going to vet them and make sure we're aligned on core values and then make sure we really have good communication systems. So one of the things we do at AC Inc. every Wednesday, we have a think tank. And we come together, the advisors and myself. So this is me staying in touch with everybody and what they're doing. And they share it's like a mastermind, like when we were doing the Play Bigger group. So they bring in one challenge that one of their clients is working on to get thoughts and insights from the other people on our team. So that's one of the ways that we, stay connected and tuned in. But I guess where I was going with that, because I got a little bit down a rabbit hole, is that I know of some of your achievements and your successes through Keith from things like that. But it's fun to hear it again and even more. I'm really excited for you and for the growth that you've got. I think your goal is awesome. 100 units by 2030.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. I think with the good head you have on your shoulders, but the drive that you have and the ambition and the focus, it sounds like you're on a good track for that.
Well, I'm excited. I just want to have a healthy franchise community. I really do.
Yeah, well, clearly we align on that. That's good. Like for me, it's a franchisor community. For you, you're thinking of your franchisees. I guess so. Two things before we hop off. One would be if you have any one piece of advice that you'd give early stage franchisors that are in sort of the shoes you're in or even earlier. I know there's probably 800 things you want to say, but just whatever pops into your head for that, and then we'll get some contact information.
You don't have to go it alone. You don't. And I was trying to do that, and it's not a plug to go hire a coach today, but like you said earlier, surround yourself with people. If you're the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah. Or you're delusional.
Yeah.
Probably. Thank you. That's good. That's good advice. And yeah. So what is your YouTube channel for everybody that's listening?
It's NutritionHQ.
Okay. Just HQ at the end. Cool.
NutritionHQ. Yep.
And what is your content mostly geared around so that people?
So we do it in multiple. So you'll see me cooking.
Oh, okay. I think I have seen that. Yeah. And I've seen you talk about like the reason for the supplements and things, right? Like the health. Yeah.
Different. Yep. I'll go through different formulas of supplements I like and what I recommend. Talking about franchising, talking about the FDD, talking about stuff like we discussed. So a little bit of everything. So it can be health and wellness, business, a little bit of anything like that.
I think that's fantastic for especially franchise prospects, people that are interested in Nutrition HQ and want to get to know you, that they can get to know you in all those different ways. That's so important that as a founder, people, they know who they're partnering with, and getting behind. So very cool. And if they did want to reach out to you, where are you the most? Are you on LinkedIn or should they go to your website and through that, maybe your website?
There's you can go to my website, which is nhq.rocks. And then Instagram is simple. I mean, it's so easy. It's Ricky NHQ. I mean, that is as simple as it gets.
Awesome. Well, and so, I think I told you earlier, I don't do a lot of interviewing. So this was fun. This was really usually I'm just talking to the whatever, the monologue sphere.
No, this is a lot of fun. It just basically was spilled over from our conversation last week.
I know. It just felt natural. So I really appreciate it. And we'll wrap it up here. And I hope that you and everybody listening goes and be's awesome. Go be awesome. I don't know. You know what I mean.
I love it.
All right.